Depending on the building and depending on obviously how I'm gaining access, depends on how frightened I am. If it's just an easy walk through a door, well, that's fine. But sometimes if I'm climbing through broken windows, I might have to squeeze through a gap that's got a plate of glass overhanging my head and my neck and my torso as I'm pulling it through. And as I pull my body through, the thoughts are like, wow, you know, if this falls now, you know, I could be dead. But it just, everything comes together and just makes this incredible feeling of adrenaline and emotion. And then once you drop into the building, it's like, wow, okay, it's like a relief. It's like, right, I'm inside now. I can now go and see what I want to see. The old Adelphi Building was built in 1915, and originally it was just a factory. It made medicines, Rennies, cough medicines, things like that. And then obviously as the kind of textile industry started to decline, the mill industry started declining in Britain. The business was starting to struggle, and then eventually in 1948 they sold the actual building off to the Salford College. They ran the building until 1960, when they then converted it into a full facility university building. It was then rebranded as the University of Salford. From 1960 onwards, it's been a university building up until it closed in 2016. If you look on a map, effectively Salford has just been wiped out and rebuilt from scratch. And there's very little of Salford's history left. There's bits in little areas here and there. And what is left is derelict, which gives me something to explore. But it's a shame because, you know, you look at the history of Salford and people can share their memories for the last 50, 60, 70 years. But eventually that's all going to be forgotten. That's all going to be pushed aside for these modern developments. You start to remove the original buildings and replace them with modern buildings, you're going to start to lose the character of that area that it's in. You know, if you think of University of Manchester, you think of Oxford, Cambridge University. They've got all these grand, beautiful old buildings that span 200-300 years worth of history. And if you take them out and remove them, then you lose that character. I wanted to remember the things that I was looking at, and I wanted to remember inside these buildings what I was looking through my own eyes with. So I go into a building, you see something gorgeous, you see something that's part of that building's history, photograph it. And then when I was getting home, I looked and thought, right, I've got an album here of historic images, you know, things that people haven't seen. If they walk past, so many people walk past the buildings, look up and think, I wonder what's inside there. So if I can give back to the community by photographing these, putting them on a Facebook page, showing the people out there, you know, these incredible buildings that are just sat dormant, that nobody knows what it looks like on the inside. But also, it gives people an opportunity to actually go back in time. The minute you step into a building that's derelict, it's frozen in that time from when it was last refurbished, whether that was 1945 or 1982. So it gives people out there who live in these communities a chance to look at these buildings.